Hey folks, Mel the Train Tutor back in the studio and back with another technical tutorial. And this one's a little bit special because I'm joined by our Fred over here. Now if you don't know him, this is Frederick Phillips, friend of the channel. Fred has the studio directly below me and he is a lifelong fine arts painter, drawer, colourer. Any medium you can sort of fancy for the fine arts, but your passion's landscape and architecture, isn't it?
I started off as a landscape artist, actually. Yeah, I kind of gravitated to architecture later on.
Right.
So really my kind of standard basic talent is landscape.
So you started with a landscape, figured I like the buildings, I'll stick with those. Works for me.
I found there was a niche in the market for architectural painting, so because nobody was doing it.
Right, so you know, and that's where you made your living.
So that's how I managed to make a living.
And you what, how many years?
40 years plus.
40 years as a landscape artist. Now this is where it gets interesting because Fred's an old war gamer from like the very early days where we used to cast our own models. So he knows this sort of stuff, he does like it. And he's agreed to come on and do a series of videos on realistic terrain colours. So we're moving from our wargaming stuff, we're moving into fine art colours and what the fine artists think. And to start this, as you know, we've been doing this little mini series on small scale coastal terrain. And me personally, this past year I've been doing a lot of waterwork, some with Fred with the resin ocean tints.
That's right, yeah.
And we're just getting the colours more realistic. So this is sort of part of this, all sort of realistic water edge sort of stuff I'm on a mission on at the minute. But Fred knows his colours. So the battle plan is we're going to cover 4 basic beaches. Now we're going to do European on an overcast day.
Yes,
yes,
it could be D-Day or Kent Coast or something like that.
Or any of my summer holidays.
Grew
up in Wales. Yeah. After that we're going to cover the more tropical, so we'll be looking at Pacific and what you call it, Indian Ocean, where not just the sand and the colours are different, but the lighting is different. See, we're getting into all this sort of stuff now. After that we're going to, we've got to do muddy estuaries and give that a bit of a go.
Yes.
And on top of that, yeah, we're going to be tackling the volcanic sand of Iwo Jima.
Yes,
and the sort of atolls and that sort of stuff. So hopefully we should give you a broad range of colours for your wargaming. So by the end of this, you should be able to just pick up and go, I want that palette, and produce awesome realistic terrain colours for your beaches. That's the battle plan. Now to do this, we've created these, or I've created these. Yeah, and I've knocked them out, and they are just simple slopes cut out of HD foam. Now, putting them together was really simple. I just beveled the foam off, sanded it off, glued it onto some EPVC, and give it a quick coat of filler, and made a nice smooth transition line for Fred to work on. The texture on them isn't perfect, but this is more about the colours than a finished realistic beach. Okay, we're not modelling beaches today. We're doing colours. Yeah, so with that in mind, and the way I should sort of say that the way we're filming this is we're going one, then the other, then the other, then the other, then we're coming back because of paint drying and that sort of stuff. From your point of view, you're going to see one piece done start to finish before we move on. So if it gets a little bit jumbly in the transitions, forgive us guys. Right, we'll have a quick swish and then we'll come back with the first piece.
Okay.
So we're starting our beach colour palettes with the European drab overcast beaches of my childhood living on a North Wales coast. And before we actually started this, we headed to B&Q, our local sort of like hardware depot, to pick up some custom paints. Now I'll throw some links down below and I'll throw some information on screen with the actual colours and that sort of stuff so you can make sure you match your colours. But Fred, you were there and you decided that that was going to be our base coat for our European beaches. Yeah.
Yes, that's like a low to medium range tone for the range of tones that we want. So we've hit something pretty much in the middle of what we want. It's not too light, it's not too dark.
Now, I mean, I'm always guilty of doing the yellow beach thing of a childhood. You know, sand is yellow and that sort of stuff.
Yes,
but I mean, you're really throwing me with the colours you've got here. So we're going to go with that. We've gone for custom paint mixes. This is Cedar Ridge from Valspar. Yeah, links down below. But what we're going to do is, base coat the entire thing?
I would do that, yes,
Yeah.
put it on quite fairly thinly.
Yeah. Now, quite interestingly, yeah, as you can see, there's quite a difference between the card and the colour in the pot. Fred had a little bit of a panic when I sort of opened it, but I have confidence because I know what wives are like if you get the wrong colour for the kitchen. Yeah, I'm sure B&Q know what they're doing. Yeah, so we'll get base coat the whole thing, yeah?
Yes, I would, yeah.
All right, so we're going to give this a quick base coat, yeah, and give it, and then we're going to come back once this is all painted up.
Right.
So our European beach is dry, and if you come down, that's the colour we're looking at. Now, Fred, yeah, it's come out in places right and other places, but that's down to the filler and our base coat. But are you happy with that?
Yeah, that's good, because what you've got is a good base coat of a darker colour, which we then lay a lighter colour in a regular fashion over it.
So we're going to lighten this up, aren't we?
We're going to lighten it up considerably, yeah.
Yeah, considerably, he says. Right, now, Fred's got me to delve through my colours and pick some colours out. And like a true artist, he's not like, we'll go for that house paint. He's like, get me this acrylic, get me that acrylic, get me that acrylic. So, to run through what we've got here. Yeah, on our palette, we've got some white. Yeah, we've got some umber. Yeah, and that is just raw umber.
Raw umber, yeah.
Okay, not burnt umber or anything like that, raw umber. Why raw umber? Did you say it was a little bit greeny?
Raw umber is more neutral.
Yeah.
Brown umber is rather reddish.
Yeah.
It's got red in its reddish colour, so you don't really want it in next to the water.
So browns can either switch, like we said, can go either red or green, can't they? Flick between those sort of...
Yeah, you can have greenish browns, you can have reddish browns, and of course down at the waterline you're going to have wet sand with literally water in it, so you're gonna need a greenish, coolish brown rather than a reddish.
Right, so that's why we've gone for the raw umber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Raw umber.
Now we've got blue in there. Yeah, and that's to do with the earth and that sort of stuff as well, isn't it?
The blue is also to put down by the water line, because you're going to have water in the sand as well, so you want to mix a little bit of blue in with the brown to even neutralise it.
Right, and so that's cobalt blue, and then we've got some yellow ochre, which is that one.
Yes.
What's the reason behind that one, mate?
Well, yellow ochre is basically earth. It's an earth colour.
Right.
So it's getting very, very close to a sandy beach colour, actually. It's not exactly perfect, and I would never recommend using it just on its own. So what you'll have to do is mix it in with a little bit of white to pale it down. If we do that, because the yellow ochre is a greenish yellow, and we put it in with the white, we put the cool colour over this warm colour.
Yeah.
And you're going to get... theoretically, about the right colour for a European.
You're balancing it off, are you? Warm to cool?
Warm and cool. Warm first, cool on top.
Yeah, I told you we were getting into art stuff, guys. This guy blows my mind. So, our next job is we're going to start putting the colours down on this. Now, this is going to be a longer process than on this video, so we're going to do a little bit of experimentation and go along as we go. Yeah, and I will edit it up the best I can. Yeah, so, let's get cracked on. Right, Fred, what first?
Right, well, first of all, we'll have your dabber, which is this piece of card here to take off the moisture, excess moisture off the brush. We could use either of these. I've got a dabber brush and a hake brush. These are both available in craft stores.
Yeah.
The hake brushes are Japanese, but they're very, very cheap, and they're kind of throwaway, so it doesn't matter if you use them.
Very quickly. Yeah, they're both hog's hair brushes. Yeah, that's the dabber brush, which is essentially a stippler. And then the hake brush. Why is it called a hake brush?
Hake.
Hake.
Yeah, as in the fish.
Oh right, okay.
I have no idea.
All right, well, okay.
But let's try the hake first.
Right.
Because it's got nice loose. Now we want a bit of yellow ochre.
Yeah.
A little bit of white.
Yeah.
And put them in together. I'd say probably a bit more white than ochre actually.
So what, sort of 60 white, 40 ochre?
60 white, 40 ochre, I'd say that is roughly like that. Doesn't matter if you've got a bit of unevenness. And now you've got a nice...
Yeah. So you've taken off the excess.
Right. And what we're doing is we're just going to dab it on in this kind of like haphazard way. Like that. It doesn't matter if some of it blodges. Because what you want is an uneven. You know, not too even.
Right, so you're literally trying to get the variation in colours. Now remember, Fred is used to painting on flat surfaces. He's not used to painting on textured surfaces. We use a lot of different techniques, so you might be able to apply these in a different technique that Fred isn't aware of. Yeah, but it's the colours that matter. That's lovely.
Yes, it's coming out, isn't it?
Right, we're going to carry on stippling this on, and then when we're ready for a bit of a colour change, we'll come back. So as you're working, what you're actually doing is you're slightly increasing the amount of ochre into it to grade it down as you're working towards the waterline, yeah?
That's right, yes. So we've got a little bit more yellow as it's going down. The sand is going to be, the more white you put in the colour, the drier the sand. The more yellow and brown you put in the colour, the wetter and damper the sand is. So I'm already beginning that transition down to I'm going to put a little bit of umber in there as well.
So you're already adding the umber in right now?
A little bit of umber, yellow ochre and white is going on there, yeah. So as it's getting down towards the waterline, it's going to be a little bit more neutral a colour. But you still got that nice warm colour coming up from underneath as well. Don't forget, so when that dries, that warm colour will persist.
So more ochre into it, going darker now.
This is now I'm putting more and more umber in there. So you see that's getting a lot more neutral now.
Yeah.
And in a minute, we'll get it. Of course, you can work it up with the neutral colour, the more neutral colour, which is the mixture of the burnt umber, the yellow ochre and the white, up into, the raw umber, the yellow ochre and the white, up into the slightly warmer colour there. So it's the transitional.
Yeah.
That's looking okay. And now, right at the very end, we're going to...
Whoa! So you've added a blue and the raw umber. And what sort of ratio are you going for there, mate?
Cobalt blue and raw umber combined together about 50-50, I'd say, with just a tiddly bit of white in there. We don't want it too dark.
So you want to light, you get your colour and then you line it up with a little bit of white, just to take it up through the tones.
That's right, yeah. Actually, I would have done the white on that.
Fred, what are you like? I do that all the time.
Oops.
Bit more blue in, bit more brown in.
Yeah, footabingers. Now, that's getting better.
Yeah.
It should be sort of like a brownish, a warm brownish grey, I suppose, is the way you want to go.
Right, so we've got a warm brown grey going on now.
Yeah, and it's going to go on smoother because obviously you're going to have less texture in the wet area as well.
Yeah.
So, So you've got the waterline edge there, and that should just grade out into the smoother.
And this is how you transition the bottom of the beach into the water and start where we go for our water effects. So this is essentially the damp sand.
Yeah, so the damp sand, the wetter the sand, the darker it is. The lighter the sand, the drier it is, basically. So obviously the furthest point of the beach away from the water is going to be the area that's the lightest. And down at the waterline you're going to have this nice dark transition like that. Right,
so now you've done your dark, you've just gone for a little bit of ochre that you mixed up earlier and you're just transitioning that line. And if I very quickly, yeah, that's what it's looking like at the moment. Now it's quite patchy up here. Are we going to highlight this up some more or are we done there?
I'd let it dry first and see how it looks. We're not finished with it though. There's a bit of highlighting that's got to go on yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good start. We've got the base coat, we've got a yellow ochre in white, grading down to a deeper yellow ochre and white, and then down to the raw umber and the cobalt mix.
You know what, the more it dries, the more it's looking like a beach on that camera. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah. Right, in which case, yeah, we're going to leave this to dry and we'll be back in a flash. So that's our mid-tones and our sort of shading towards the coastline done. It's all dry now and it's looking rather good. But Fred, you want to highlight this up to sort of finish it with some sort of speckling effect. So, what are we doing on it now, mate?
Well, you've got to remember now we've got the beach.
Yeah.
So let's put some shells, stones, rocks.
You're looking to break this texture up a bit, are you?
Yeah, to break it up, make it a little bit more interesting. So start off obviously with the white.
Yeah, with the white, yeah.
With the white.
With the right white.
With the right white. A little bit of yellow maybe in there, just to soften it a little bit. We don't want it too brassy, like that. Then we should dab it out.
So you really have gone for a much lighter version of the ochre then. You've just highlighted it up.
Yeah, this is almost white. Yeah, almost white. And it seems counterintuitive, but just putting that almost white over what we've got will get that effect of a beach covered in fine granular parts. Oh, the little speckles of quartz I was talking about.
And you are just literally just stippling on a little bit. You're using the colours to come through again, aren't you?
Yes, I'm making sure plenty of it comes through. It's just really parsimonious light covering. Like a cast of sugar dusting, you might say.
Yeah.
but it will texture it up in a minute. You'll see. And this with this, we don't get it darker down.
Right. Okay.
So they won't show much up the top, but when you get down to the bottom, they'll really begin to show a lot. And that's the trick, is to make it look like it's speckled with lots of little bits catching the light.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's getting there. You have to kind of just keep on doing it till it looks right. It's a bit like, you know, making a meal or something. You occasionally put a spoon in and have a taste, yes, if it's okay. Well, it's a bit like painting like that, really. You know, you kind of keep on adding to it till you feel like it's working okay.
So you add your flavours sort of thing.
That's right, yeah, to taste. And it is a mixture of intuition and educated guess most of the time, really. But over the years, you do begin to find ways of doing things which, you know, colour combinations that work and that kind of thing. But one of the things I've learned the most over the years is that the combination of cool and warm colours is very, very attractive to the eye. And here we're putting a cool colour on top of a warmer one. Right. So we started with one colour, put a cooler colour on, and then we put in a cooler colour still on top of that. Now this is where it gets tricky, because you have to be a little bit careful down here. Obviously there's less texture to pick up.
Yeah.
There should still be stones in there. This kind of speckle effect, textured effect, because we don't want it. Nothing on a beach is smooth, obviously, except the water possibly, but we're not depicting water here. This is just the beach. A bit more there. Occasionally, it's always good to stop and step back and evaluate it, and you can always see it better from a distance. So that's why I stop doing this occasionally. When your nose is on it, you can't really see the wood for the trees sometimes. And it's just a question of just doing it and keeping on doing it till it begins to acquire that sense of natural...
Just building it up little by little.
Natural complexity, I guess is what you say. And always keep it lighter in the drier parts, so you can use more of this in the lighter, drier parts of the
It's really coming together now, isn't it?
Yeah. And
we'd probably use a mixture of dry brushing and stippling with this technique over a larger area. But it definitely works.
Yes, eventually it should soften the whole effect. This kind of like speckle of light I'm putting on top of it.
Now Fred's probably got a bit more of this to do, so what we'll do is we'll stop talking now and I'll let Fred sort of like skip ahead, if you know what I mean, and get this done. Actually, there wasn't that much more to do, to be truthful, but this is where Fred's got it at the moment. Yeah, look at that. It's crazy to look at now. Well, as I say, I'm going to have to work out different techniques for applying this and colours for you in the future, but so much from this video. Right, Fred, you said there's one last thing that you want to do with it. What do you want to do, mate?
This is just a little finishing touch. That always is a nice thing to do, and that is a little bit of hand-painted, the opposite highlights actually, sort of like shadowy areas.
Okay.
So
you went with the ochre, a little bit of white and a little bit of umber there.
Yeah, this is more umber, and I'm just putting...
You're just breaking the texture up a bit.
Yeah, little dashes here and there, because what this will do is it'll break the darker area at the bottom into the area at the top, you know, as like a transition.
You can tell you're an oil painter, mate.
Yeah, but it's just like a random kind of light thing, really.
Okay, well we'll do this and we'll bring it back once it's done. So Fred's just finishing off now, and he's gone in and he's put a load of little speckled dots on, yeah, with a mixture of the ochre, the umber and white, and then he's just gone in with just literally almost pure white, just with a mix of his base colour, and respeckled. And basically what he's done is he's broken the bottom surface up. Okay, but as you can see, that looks absolutely beautiful. And there's a whole range of colours you can grab from these. So that is your that's your European sort of beach colours if you're painting them, yeah?
That would be good for D-Day, Dieppe build, any build, you know, the British coastline, or European coastline.
Yeah. Obviously, like I say, I've got to translate this into more usable stuff for you, so there'll be videos on that in the future. But for you real hardcore Terrainiacs, you should be soaking in this knowledge. Right, I'll show you a photo of this, and then we are going to flick over, and we're going to tackle doing beaches in more tropical sands, where it's a little bit more warmer, eh? Right, let's crack on. And right guys, for our next colour palette, what we're going to be tackling is our Pacific Tropical Indian Ocean colours, which are obviously a lot lighter. Now obviously it's a lot brighter, you've got a lot more yellow light direct from the sunlight rather than this diffuse grey that you get with the European in the tropics. Any other colours sort of come into the tropical stuff? Because I've noticed when we were looking at the colours, you were looking at pinks and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah, so one of the things to bear in mind with anything that's like anywhere that's tropical, Indian Ocean, Pacific, anything like that, is that there's going to be coral there. And as a beach is always reflector of the local geography, the local terrain, there's going to be some pink in the beach as well, some pink in the sand.
That's a good point, because beaches are essentially the local terrain ground up, aren't they?
Ground up into mincemeat like
yeah, which is why we have the dark volcanic. Yeah, but that's why we have that sort of beach, and that's why, you know, if you've got a lot of vegetation, then you get a lot of algae in the sand and that sort of stuff.
That's also true, yes. So, but of course, it's powdered rock, of course, as well.
Yeah.
So it's usually quartz and silica in sand, and the quartz is like the stuff that when you pick up sand, it's almost like translucent, you can see through it.
Yeah.
So that whitens down the colour, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Because it's almost like glass.
But the tropical stuff has a hint of pink to it because or peach. Yes. Because of the actual coral being ground up and mixed in with the sand.
Yeah, it's going to be mixed in with powdered coral as well. So essentially, which is swept in from the.
Yeah, so essentially, it's almost like tinted sand.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Right, and so for that in mind, yeah, Fred has gone for a nice tan. And to be truthful with how cold it is in the studios right now, we could do with a nice tan. Yeah. Now, once again, it's come out a lot lighter. Yeah, in the actual tub than on the card, but we know that paints, when they're wet, they're always lighter. So our job here is we're going to get a base coat on this, and then we'll come back when when the base coat is on, and we can start with our actual shading. So getting it basically on, it is a nice cream colour.
Yes, that's gorgeous colour, isn't it? Yeah, that's really.
You can just see the hint of pink in it, can't you?
Yeah, yeah. So we're already halfway there with that colour, just with the base colour. Sometimes if you can hit it pretty close with the base colour, then all you've got to do is just highlight it.
And introduce those tints further as part of your highlights.
And yes, you could say kind of accent that basic ground colour, you know, with base colour, which is, like I said, is pretty spot on with that one. We'll have to adjust the European one a little bit more. That is a bit deeper. This one we got a bit closer to the finished effect, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no worries.
Nice texture as well.
Right, we'll get this done and we'll come back once it is. Right, our base coat has dried and it has come out a lovely sort of pinky yellow colour.
Yep.
Yeah, now that's not a colour I would pick for beaches, but Fred knows his stuff, and we've been going through my colours to pick what he wants to work with this, and he's actually gone for a bit of an interesting mix. Now, this is your colour palette here, Fred. We've obviously gone for the titanium white and the acrylic again, but you've gone for house colours here.
Yes.
Specifically, from Wilkinson's, you've gone for Chocolate Dream, which is a bit of a warm, creamy brown, yeah. And then you've also gone for Potters Clay, yeah, which is more of a darker, what do you call it, cooler brown?
Right, yes.
Yeah. So go on, explain your thinking here.
Well, the lighter colour, the cooler colour, which is this one here, when I mix that with white, is going to be a pale, dry sand colour. And the darker colour is going to grade down, further down, still mixed with white, into going down again towards the water.
So you're actually going to mix the white into the lighter colour, into the darker colour as well?
Yes, I'm going to mix the white into them both, yeah. One's cool and one's warm. So cool, dry, warm, wet is what I'm working.
Okay.
Sorry, got that wrong way around. Warm.
Warm at the top,
cool
at the bottom.
Sorry,
yeah. My studio is infectious. Right, so we're just mixing up from the dark one now.
Yeah, so what this is a dry brush we're going to put. I'm using the stippler brush this time. Let's try this one, see how it works.
Now remember guys, we're not expecting you to custom mix all your paints on the go. Once you've seen the shades that you like, you can mix them up in advance, okay? Or, you know, get them pre-mixed at a store once you've got your shades. This is just introducing the colours.
That's not working so well, so let's try it again. So again, like I say, the paler, warmer colour.
So if you just mix both of those in together?
Actually, accidentally did a little bit, but
oh, right, that was it.
I didn't need to.
Okay, then.
I had again a stippling, dabbing, half covering.
We'd use overbrushing, dry brushing, or an airbrush in this situation.
Yeah, you could use airbrush with a diffuse spray. That would work if you put on diffuse. The trick is to use plenty of white in it actually as well. So what I'm doing actually is just taking this colour, the base colour, down and making it a little bit more neutral, letting the base colour show through from underneath, but putting enough of the stuff on the top to give it that pale, sandy.
You really are working with the colours as in the base, whereas what we use is in very opaque techniques. This colour, then this colour goes on top of it. Whereas what you're doing is you're literally using the colour underneath it.
That's right, yeah.
And sort of almost tinting it and filtering it with the colours that you're putting on top.
That's right, so you kind of anticipate the final effect by starting off with a base colour that you know you can adjust to the required way that you want it to be. It's always a good idea to start off with a darker base colour because it's somehow always more effective to put a lighter colour over a darker one than the other way around.
Right.
We have to do the darker colour at the waterline, of course, here, but apart from that, most of it is going on lighter over darker, which is a nice visual effect. And when it dries, it should look more like a coral beach because we've got the paint coming through from underneath.
Yeah, yeah. As it's drying, you can start to see it coming through because it's sort of matting out a little. One of the problems with painting, obviously, is while it's wet, it's reflecting light, which makes it look a lot more brighter than it actually is going to dry.
That's true, yeah. It will always dull down when it dries down. And now I've mixed a little bit of white into the more neutral
into the lighter, creamier one.
Yeah.
What you call it?
Yeah, that's a cooler.
Our Chocolate Dream.
Oops.
Oh, yeah, didn't.
Oops. And this one is going on cooler, as you can see. It's got a bit whiter, a bit greyer, I should say.
Yeah.
Which is what we want, really. The way it's going on quite nicely as well. And what we need to do is get it right down to the waterline.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need a little bit of that cobalt blue again.
Oh, you need the blue again? Yeah. So, this is the cobalt blue that we used in the European one. Yeah, so that blue, yeah. Go on.
And I just lift a little bit of that cobalt blue off there.
Yeah.
And mix it in with this cooler colour here to make a neutral blend. The cobalt blue is very useful because it's a slightly red. Oops.
Right.
It's a slightly reddish blue. So as you can imagine, you know, for a warm climate, you want a reddish blue mixed in with this colour.
Whereas we'd go with something darker if we were going with Atlantic and that sort of stuff, wouldn't we? We'd break it with brown.
It would be browner and darker. Yeah. This should be paler and kind of bluer, but paler. Got some nice texture on it.
You're picking up a bit of the dried acrylic, I think, with the way we're mixing.
That's absolutely
it's fine.
Yeah, no, that's got to add texture. There's nothing wrong with that. And you know, little accidental things like that actually add character. You know. There you go.
Yeah.
I see that's a lot softer blend than the the other one.
So for the coral beach, yeah, you can see it actually. You can see the pink, and it's. I shouldn't doubt him. Yeah, but it's. Oh God, yeah.
It's beginning to get that. This is obviously a European beach. So this is more like what the other one will end up looking like, but. Gives you an idea.
Yeah, it's one of these things, you spend that much time looking at wargaming beaches which aren't realistic colours in truth, that when you put realistic colours down, they don't look right until you really start to look at them and realise actually, they look damn right. So we're going to leave this to dry and we'll be back in just a swish. So our mid-tones have dried and it's looking rather pinky. Yeah, I must admit, I do like the colours, Fred, and I like that. But it's time to take it to the next stage. Now, we're using the same palette as we used before, but you've asked for a little bit of actual burnt umber for this one, rather than the raw umber that we've been previously using.
Right.
So, what's the battle plan, Fred?
Well, we're going to start off again with a spackle with the hake brush. This one is pretty good.
Yeah.
Although, actually, this worked quite well. Why not reuse this one? It's cleaner as well.
Yeah, one of my hogheads.
Yeah, start off with this. Very, very bristly.
That's dried already, hasn't it?
Quite a splayed brush there. Yeah, it has partially, but we can still use it. That's okay.
So you're going in with our white with a touch of the cream.
Yeah, just a touch of that warmer colour as well, but much lighter than the...
That was our chocolate dream colour, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. The trick is to keep it warm, because obviously it's tropical, it's, it's a warm place, so you'll get that effect by using warm colours,
So we're going to do pretty much replicate what we did on the European beach with the stippling effect on the top of here.
Yes, again, we're getting that texture that you would get. Although, actually, coral beaches tend to be rather smoother, so I'm going to probably work it up a little less.
Right, okay, so it's not as harsh.
It's not as harsh, it's a bit softer, as you can see already.
Okay.
Oops. And the trick is just keep it as light and as frosty as, well, not frosty, frosty is the wrong word, isn't it? As light and as kind of even as possible.
Okay. Right, because we've already shown this, we're going to just skip ahead and we'll come back once he's finished doing this stage, guys. So we're wrapping up with the stippling, and Fred's basically gone with a really soft stipple of that white and our light creamy brown, that chocolate dream.
So it's like
Oh,
so it's there.
Yeah. And so, literally like that. You've just very gently stippled and blended the edges, and it's pretty much all over the piece, even into the darker areas, which is different from before.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, because we've got a softer transition with coral.
Right.
It's a lighter, softer, kind of finer sand.
Right, okay. So what's next?
Well, we just need to put a few highlights and shadows in with a brush.
A brush.
A brush.
A normal brush, we know what one of those is. Right, okay, over to Fred.
Yeah, just a little bit of fine work and we'll be done with this one.
What's the plan with the burnt umber?
That's going to be for the opposite of the highlights.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I guess the shadows, I suppose you'd
say.
So
for the highlights, you're going in and you're just actually picking up on some of the texture, aren't you?
I'm instantly attracted to these little lumps that got picked up on there. But yeah,
he's not used to having texture on his paintings.
Oh, it's nice. I like it. And again, there are shells, there are pebbles, there are rocks, there are all kinds of things that float up in the water.
We do selective highlighting for this. So obviously with a 3D texture, you can pick out certain things, just go along with a small brush and change the colour of those. Maybe a quick wash over them.
And there's no harm in letting them kind of run into each other as well. They don't all have to be dots. You can sort of like
smear them out.
You can do a kind of like a running dot thing.
Yeah.
So some come out as dots and some out as little dabs. And that again will be exactly what you would expect. So I've fed that lighter texture into the rest of the picture there.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to get a bit of the white mixed with a bit of the brown.
Right. And a bit of the chocolate dream. So you're using the burnt umber just to darken that mix down just a little. Just
a little bit to get, because it's remaining warm because we use burnt umber, which is a warm brown.
Yeah.
And this should.
So with the tropical thing, it really is about the warm colours.
Yes, keeping it warm. Yes, you're not going to get much in the way of cool colours. This is a little cool here.
Yeah.
Down where the water line is. But what I'm going to do is now introduce a little speckle of this warmer brown.
Yeah.
Which is totally invisible.
Needs to darken it up a little.
Well, just a little, yeah. Yeah. Okay, that was still one match. It's completely blended in.
Got to about like a chocolate colour. Right, I better get that phone. 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. So Fred's finished with his spotting, and if we bring it up, he's used it to break it up. Look at that. That really does look like coral.
Yeah, so it's good colour.
Yeah.
Colour.
It's really nice, mate. Obviously with the spotting, that's a fine art technique. We have other techniques. This is about the colour, guys. I keep saying that. But overall, bloody beautiful, mate. So for our next, sort of palette colour, we're tackling muddy sort of estuaries that are quite common around Northern Europe. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the world, but I know that quite a lot of our rivers go into more muddy estuaries at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know it's a favourite training ground of a few friends of mine in the Royal Marines. So, I mean, they've spent plenty of time in the mud. But it is a geographical location that is used in wargaming and that sort of stuff. And it can, having these colours can certainly add to the variation on your table, allowing you to do the more standard European beaches that we covered earlier on one side, and then have a bit of a muddy estuary on the other. So I wanted to do these colours, so we tackled what you call it. We've tasked Fred to come up with the colours. And what he's done is he's picked this one. Okay, now this is, how would you describe that? Come on, Fred. Artistically, how would you describe that colour for us?
In oil paint, that'd be called Van Dyke Brown.
Van Dyke Brown?
Yes.
Why? Because Van Dyke used it?
Because Van Dyke used it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but it's what's called an organic brown. It's basically a brown, originally used to put bitumen in it.
Right.
But, it's basically anything that's organic or alluvial that's kind of like degraded, if you like.
Alluvial, what's that?
Alluvial is what gets carried in rivers, like the mud.
Oh, the sludge and silt. Yeah.
It's basically kind of degraded vegetation that's gone mouldy, and then it's gone into mulch, and then it's gone into this kind of brown stuff. And so it's like an organic colour for rotted vegetation, mud, alluvial soil, that kind of thing. This is
your swamp colours then, and
so
all that sort of, anywhere where you're going to get loads of degraded vegetation rotting.
Anything that has come down a river and got deposited is going to, that's a very good base colour for you.
Which is quite interesting because it's called Brazilian brown, and there's plenty of that, in the rainforest and that sort of area.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's the base colour we're going to be doing this one in. Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, these colours really throw me, but Fred knows what he's doing, so I'm just going to trust him. So we'll get the brown on here. And then you can see a hint of green in that, actually.
Yes, there should be a Van Dyke brown. It should be kind of a slightly brownish green.
Right. So if they haven't got this, what they could do is they could just throw a green into a brown, into a dark brown.
Yeah, some browns actually are naturally a greenish brown.
Right.
Some browns are naturally a reddish brown. So obviously, if you're using
right.
Paint,
so your reddy orangey sort of browns, they've got the red in, and then the more disgusting-y browns, they've got the green in. Yeah, those kind of cooler, greener browns is what you want, really. Yeah. Which is pretty close to what we've got here. It's like an umber colour. Yeah. Right. So. Right, we'll leave that to dry, and then we'll bring this back when it's dry and we'll see what Fred can do with it. Okay, and now our base coat has dried on our estuary. Yeah, and we've got quite a nice brown there, and it's already darkening towards the bottom just for how we applied it. Completely accidental. Are you happy with the brown, Fred? Yes, good base coat, yes, a good way to start. What you've got to imagine here is that you've got a bank coming down to the river estuary that comes out into the sea. So, you do this on the other side as well to have the estuary effect. And we're going to start off again with a lighter colour, getting darker down towards the water's edge, because again, mud gets darker as it gets wetter. Yeah, right. Now we've changed our paint palette here, and Fred's been delving into my greens. So very quickly to take you through what we've got. Okay, we've got our raw umber again. Yeah, we've got black, white, both in acrylic. And then we've got these two greens. Now, we've got this one green, which is a sap green, from the works. And then we've got this sort of limey green. Yeah, what is it? Urban Jungle from Wilkos. But as you can see, it's quite a yellowy, warm green, isn't it? You're a bit concerned that was a little bit too light. That might be a bit too much of a yellowish green, because what we're looking for is decayed vegetation. Yeah. So to mix in the green with the brown and the black, you'll get that kind of like decayed vegetation colour. Right. Well, that's probably a bit too pale. Fred reckons he's got this nailed. So, Fred, let's see what you do with this, mate. Yeah, this should be interesting. Now, obviously, this is going to be slightly different because we've got a wet surface that we're depicting. Right, because it's mud, of course. Yeah. These have all been dry. So this is going to be less of a stipple. More of a brush job, I think. Okay. So we'll start off with black and white. So you're establishing your grey and your brown. And it's quite a dark one, isn't it? Yes. We're going to start off paler at the top, then the base coat and dark at the bottom like we did before. And there's just a little bit of green. So how's that coming out now? That's gone quite drab, hasn't it? Yeah. So we've got raw umber,
black, white, and a sap green, and that's coming out a nice organic colour. A bit more brown, I think.
You're just on the hint of switching from green to brown there, aren't you?
Yes, what we need to avoid is grey, obviously. We don't want grey, and that was edging towards grey. So I've added a bit more raw umber, and I'm going to add a bit more brown. And this...
A bit more green, yeah.
A bit lighter as well. Should end up.
Your life must be playing around with colours. This must be a series, because I mean you're replicating real things, aren't you? So you've got to match the colour.
Yes, yeah. So I'm going to put the colour on there and see that's not quite pale enough. So a bit more white in that. Again, it's just basically a mixture of raw umber, green, black and white in various quantities. But you should let the brown, the raw umber dominate.
So you really want the brown over everything else. The
yes.
black and the white is just desaturate it essentially.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
and make it a little bit more realistic. Like we throw grey into our normal paints, guys. Yeah, and then the touch of green is that algae sort of plant life thing.
That's right, yes. The green will introduce that sense that it's...
Wow, now you really are greening up, aren't you?
Decaying vegetation, yeah. I'm also going to put it on in a striated and a kind of uneven fashion as well.
Right, okay.
Because we need to leave a bit of room for, you know, with mud, you get kind of like it's formed into shapes by the effect of the water.
The waves and where it deposits
right,
and
exactly,
raises and dips and stuff like that.
It's very rarely, if ever, even. So I'm going to leave a little bit of room for that.
So it's literally, you just slightly switched it with the green being slightly dominant in the mix rather than the brown now, for that algae-ish look.
That's right. Yeah,
and now you're darkening and going a little bit greener as well.
Greener, darker and browner, yes, yes. So we end up with a sort of like a coffee drab, really, pretty much. But darker and darker and darker towards the water line, where it's getting wetter and wetter. So, that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, in a kind of a half covering fashion, leaving some of the colour underneath showing through is the best way. Because you can always, you know, come in afterwards and put little extra bits in here and there.
Yeah, yeah.
If you skip too much, it's easier to put a bit more on than take any off.
Always the way, isn't it? Yeah, little, lots.
Yeah. So a conservative approach isn't a bad thing. You can always add to what you've done. It can be a bit difficult, a bit tricky to change things when you've already got a very strong.
That really is a really organic mud.
Let's get back, yeah. And then I'm just letting the dry brush just peter out with the dark colour into the...
So you're just blending what's left in your brush into the light.
Yes, yes.
Just to get a bit of a transition on it.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
And are you happy? Are you happy with these bits and that sort of stuff, or do they need smearing? Or
not quite yet, no.
Oh yeah, you're happy.
Because what I'm going to suggest now is that because we've got a darker colour down towards the water's edge.
Yeah.
What about if there's a darker colour higher up as well?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Right. You're really going out of it. Okay.
Which will suggest that water's caught in rivulets and things.
Yeah. Yeah. So
wood,
we're going to go do a bit of a stripe across there, are we?
Yeah. I'm going to put a little bit of uneven darker colour up in the lighter area here.
Yeah.
Brown and green again. Sorry, brown and black again to get a deeper, but a cooler brown. It's a greenish brown, organic raw umber. So,
but essentially, what you've been working with here is a mixture of the green and the browns, and then using the greys as your way of sort of highlighting and changing the tone of it.
That's right. You can actually use colour to form to make form. You know, so you can get the illusion.
Well, that's what you do, isn't it? Because you work on a flat surface.
That's true.
We're quite lucky, yeah, from an artistic point of view, because we actually put it down flat, mate, so they can see it on the camera.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. Otherwise, they'll be screaming at me that they can't see your final touches. But I mean, we're quite lucky because we work in 3D. Yeah, we get natural shadow and stuff like that. That's true. Because light gives shadow. Yeah, whereas you actually have to paint shadow onto everything. So, I mean, you have to take in also the colour of the shadow as the light's reflecting off what wall it's reflecting off and what colour that... So...
Yes, bounce light, things, you know, sometimes the light can catch something and then bounce off onto something else.
It isn't quite dry yet, so it's looking a little bit shiny, but if I hold it up like that, yeah, you can see that sort of...
It's getting muddy.
I'm getting flashbacks. And not the good ones. Right, we're going to leave this to dry and we'll be back in a flash. So our midtones on the estuary have all dried now, and that's what we're looking at. And it's got a brownie, and you can definitely see where you've done the lines there, the darker line and the lighter. It's coming up quite a lot on the camera. Yeah, but it does look really nice. So Fred, what have we got to do to sort of, what are the next colours you do to finish this off then? What's the plan? Okay,
well, I've got to imagine this is like alluvial mud in an estuary, and obviously we're going to have rivulets in it.
Okay.
Where the water is kind of like caused
channels,
kind of like tide marks.
Yeah, tide pools and stuff like that where water's got trapped.
Yeah. So what I would do with this is I'll start off with a smaller brush with this actually, and a bit of brown and black.
Yeah.
I should say raw umber and black. Should be a good starting point. Because again, it's always going to be darker towards the water's edge or wherever the water is. So, with something like this, the water is not just going to be at the water's edge, but it's going to be caught up further up as well.
Okay.
So we're going for it's a bit, actually a little bit too brown.
So you're darkening it up a lot more, aren't you?
Well, I'm actually taking some of the brown out and putting a little bit of black in, so it's not quite as brown.
Are you balancing that off with the grey at the same time?
Yes, it's like black and white and brown combined together. That's too close. It's very, very hit and miss this, because obviously you want it subtle, you don't want it to stand out too much. The
colour changes, you mean?
Yes, the variations in the tones of it, yeah.
So it was just your raw umber with essentially a mix of a dark grey in by the time you mix the black and the white.
It was basically a darker tonality of what we'd already used. We'll fill in at the back and the bottom there like that.
Right, so Fred's going to work these colours in now. Alright, so you've finished doing that, and if we bring it up, basically all you've been doing is adding very, very subtle darker pieces in, and you're breaking it up in those tide lines, aren't you?
Yeah, so there's a sense of the flow of the rivulets of mud that's formed from the flow of the water, if you follow me. Yeah.
Now some of the lines are a little bit harsh for what we do, as always guys. Yeah, we translate the colours into what we do and the techniques we do. Yeah, it would be interesting to get Fred actually paint a 3D piece.
Yes.
A 3D build and see how an oil painter and a proper fine art flat paint 2D painter takes on a 3D piece.
I've always wanted to do like a diorama with a backdrop, so that you can't tell where the backdrop ends and the diorama begins.
Yeah, sounds like a project.
Yeah, that's always been an ambition of mine, that. Yeah.
So we've gone in with basically our greyed out, what you call it, umber.
Yes.
What's next?
Well, we've got some nice kind of like dark, undulated kind of like colours there. We need to put a few highlights in there.
Okay.
So again, we're going to go in with the brown.
So same brown, you've just added a little bit more white in to lighten it up.
That's correct. Yeah, raw umber, and this will be our highlight colour.
That's quite light, mate.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because this is going to be.
Oh, is this going to be like a stippler technique, the rock sort of technique that you did with?
Oh, it's a bit blue, isn't it? Okay. Some bit of green in there.
Okay. Yeah, so a little bit greeny because it's the algae sort of plant life look on it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once again, just coming in and just breaking it up. Obviously, we use dry brushing and that sort of stuff for these techniques.
I was going to say, actually, probably dry brushing would be a better way to do it, actually, because I'm getting too fiddly here with it. Ah.
You didn't clean off your brush. Right, we'll leave Fred to do this and we'll come back once it's done. Oh, that's beautiful, mate.
I think that's really good.
Yeah, that really is beautiful. And there we have it. Now, after he's gone in and he's done his highlights, yeah, they are subtle. Yeah, and it is essentially that brown with the grey mixed in and a touch of green. Green has been quite important with the estuary stuff, isn't it?
It has, yes.
Yeah, that plant life sort of feel, if you've reinforced it all the way through.
Yes.
Because I see it here, I see it here, I see it even in the water's edge, even though you've gone over it with a darker umber and broken that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even in sort of like where you've gone in very gently and just lightened it up, it's still just present in there as well.
Still persisting through, and we've still got the base coat here and there as well.
Yeah. Right, guys, that is the estuary. We're now going to tackle the most common one I get, which is the volcanic sands of Iwo Jima. So, let's get cracked on.
That should be a good one.
And so, for our fourth and final sort of colour palette set, we are tackling the volcanic sands, because I get a lot of requests for this, especially with it, Iwo Jima. Lots of wargamers like to play it. Now, Fred threw me a bit of a curveball on this one, because we were going through B&Q and we're going along and we're getting our colours, and I said, right, we've got 4 beaches, we need 4 colours. We get 3 colours, and I go, right, what about the Iwo Jima? And he goes, we'll do it in the same as the mud estuary.
Yeah, that's a good base colour, yes. Yeah.
You're not selling me, man. I mean, he's got photos of Iwo Jima here. So if I take a look at this photo here, I'm not sold, Fredicus. I'm not sold, mate. But you're sort of suggesting a bit of blue in it and doing some touchy stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He is an artist, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, he's done this for 40 years. Yeah, he knows colour inside out. So, and you used to teach at university and everything, haven't you?
Yes, I taught drawing. Yeah. The thing is about colour though is that if you start off with a base colour like this, you can always adjust it. So the base colour is just literally exactly that. We can put what's called a light scumble, or a light half covering colour over the colour. A
scumble is a dry brush for us wargamers. Yes, exactly. I've learned that.
A dry brush, yes. Well, you can even put it on your fingers actually if the colour is quite thick and pasty.
The actual technique of dragging paint across a raised surface, we call dry brushing.
Dry brushing, yeah.
Yeah, we overbrushing and dry brushing, but the professional art term is scumbling, isn't it?
That's what oil painters use, or acrylic painters. And you can put it on with the heel of your hand as well, because that's like a soft pad. You know, here.
Well, you know, I like getting messy. Right, so you seriously reckon we're going to make this look like that?
I believe so. Yes, with a little bit of
a little bit of art magic.
A little bit of magic, yes. Yeah.
It's a bit like having Tony Hart back, isn't it? Right, so base coat on that is done. Yeah, we'll leave it to dry, quick flash, and then we'll be back to see what Fred's going to do with it. So our organic brown base coat has dried, and it's time to turn this, into Iwo Jima. You got the photo, Fred? There we are. So that's our challenge. Right. We're pretty close already, aren't we?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it will change with the light and all that sort of stuff, setting of the day, but core colours. Right, now, obviously, we've gone down with our Brazilian brown. What sort of brown did you call that? An organic brown, did you? There was a name for it.
Yes, it is like Van Dyke brown.
Van Dyke brown, that was it?
Yes, yeah.
It's been a while since I heard that. You probably only heard it about a minute ago. Oh, pardon me. Right, colours. The palette on this one, we've got your titanium white, because that's a bit of a stock colour for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yes. You'll want to lighten, yes.
We've got our raw umber, which is another organic greeny brown. We've got cobalt blue, which is a warm blue.
Yes.
Yeah, and we've got black acrylic. Yeah. Right. I'm getting there. Right, Fredicus. Yeah. How are you going to turn that into Iwo Jima then, mate?
Right, that's an interesting challenge.
I'm curious.
Yes, I've never done this before, so I have to say. But we're going to start off with
experimenting with Fred.
Yeah. Start with some white.
Yeah.
Black, blue, and brown, basically.
Are you going for roughly equal of each?
I'd say roughly, perhaps a bit more white than, you know, it's probably 50% white, 25% raw umber, 15% cobalt, and about 10% black. I'd say that is roughly.
There's a ratio for you. I'll put that on the screen.
The resulting, I'm putting a little bit more umber in. Actually, it's a little bit grey. But what I'm trying to get is a kind of like a fairly pale, because it's got to be pale in the base coat.
Yeah.
But I need to neutralise the brownishness of it a little bit, if you know what I mean.
So you need to grey it out a little.
It needs to be a little less pure brown.
Could you achieve that by throwing a grey into the base coat? Because I know you're mixing your colours and getting them bang on, but if you've got the base coat...
That's true, but then you won't get the texture.
Yeah, do you need to take the excess off?
Probably, yeah. But the nice thing about doing it this way is this dry brushing over a lighter colour. You get the best of both worlds because you've got the rich, deep colour underneath, but you've got this highlights coming out on top, and it's going to bring all the texture of the fill out as well.
Yeah. So this is another one of those layers, and you're using the base coat underneath it to affect the paint layer you're putting on.
That's right. Yeah. So the two function together.
Yeah.
You know, as a finished effect.
So it is just a slightly browny brown, isn't it? Browny grey.
It's a browny, slightly. Oops, got a hair on there. Slightly browny, bluey grey that I'm putting over their space coat, yeah, which is going to, and of course it's got to also get darker down towards the waterline, the same as with the beach, the sandy beach as well. It's going to do the same thing. So I'm already going a bit deeper down there. We're going to start off with the overpaint lighter at the top and darker at the bottom.
Yeah.
Than the base coat, yeah. So. The interesting thing about Iwo Jima is that...
the brown is coming through that now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. The volcanic rock there creates this amazing, almost black, when it's wet, it's almost black.
So you literally are just adding a little bit of blue for the coolness, you're adding more of the brown in, and then darkening it down with the,
blue,
the black.
Blue, brown and black, yeah, as we get down towards right down at the bottom there, which is a little bit deeper than the base coat.
Yeah.
And this should be smoother again, because obviously you need it smoother where the water is. And then just feather it into the lighter colours there. You can leave.
Yeah, let me hold that.
Leave quite a bit of the base coat actually, because it is so close to what we wanted in the first place.
Yeah.
That, you know, that works okay.
You can leave more of that showing through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you happy with that?
Reasonably.
Reasonably. I'm always an artist.
There's always a little bit of kind of highlighting and touching up and sort of like finishing off of things.
How do you decide when you're done? Because that's always an issue. I mean, as an artist,
really, yeah, it's an instinct. I think, you know, Monet put it perfectly once. He said, "You know when it's finished when you can't tell how it was made."
You know how it's finished when you can't tell how it's made.
You know when you finished doing it, when you look at it, or when another person looks at it, they can't tell how you did it.
And just to you went dark down here by slowly adding more of the brown, the black, and a touch of blue in, and then you've just thrown a little bit of white in there just to line up to do a ridge line across the top.
Yes, I've just added a bit more at the top there. So
yeah, and is there more that we're going to need to do on this?
Again, we're going to need to highlight it again.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the base coat and then the second. Yeah.
Look at that! I shouldn't doubt him. That's beautiful, mate.
Well, it's getting there. It's getting closer.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's almost like if you were to drop that down to about there, it's almost like you can't even see the division.
And of course, don't forget as well, down towards the water, it's going to get darker and darker.
Yeah, of course.
Like with the sand.
Right, we're going to put this up to dry and we'll be back. I keep saying a swish, I've nicked that from Beasts of War. We'll be back in a flash. So our mid-tones are dry now, and that bluey grey is really coming through there, Fred.
Yes, it's really working well.
I mean, I wasn't sure when you put the initial brown down because it looked nothing like what I was expecting, but I can start seeing it coming through now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely lighter at the top, but the mid-tones are definitely getting there. Right, sir.
Right.
What do we need to do with this now? What are you going to do? Do you need any extra colours?
I think we'll just stay with the same colours, actually.
Right, okay.
So
in which case, over to Fred.
Just a question of just texturing this up now, really. And
similar to all the others, just breaking it all up again.
Pretty much. The one difference is we've got to get this a lot darker down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
So maybe we should start with that at the beginning, because a little bit of blue and a little bit of black.
Yeah, so start with the blue, black, lightening it a little bit with the white.
Yeah. But we've got to get it a bit deeper than this.
There you go, full bore there, mate.
Yeah.
Throwing a bit of brown in as well.
Brown too, yeah. Yeah.
So a really bluey dark brown, a cold dark brown then.
It is, yeah.
Oh, it is as well.
Yeah, I'm putting this in quite strong to begin with.
Yeah, and feathering it off.
And then I'll just let it just peter out as it goes up, yeah.
I'm slowly learning this stuff, you know.
And a kind of feathery touch like that. It's nice as well. Because that way you get like nice textural, kind of dragging it up.
Yeah.
Like that. Okay, that's a good start. Now what we need to do is work down from the top down into that.
Okay.
Again, we're still leaving some of the undercoat showing through. It's coming through in little bits here and there. But the trick is to make it so that no one colour kind of dominates anywhere, if you know what I mean, too much.
Yeah, so keep it, what you call it, sort of as mixed as possible.
As variegated as you can, yeah. Without, you know, getting too over fussy, obviously, because, you know.
So brown, white, blue.
I'll mix it basically the raw umber, the white, and a little bit of this cobalt blue together.
Yeah.
Till I get it a bit more brown than blue.
Yeah.
Actually, I changed my mind. I'm looking at it. It should be a bit more blue than brown, actually, and a bit paler too. It's better. It's better because we want to put a speckly highlight on top of this top bit now.
Yeah, so a bluey grey with a touch of brown.
That's not light enough. It's a question of gauging it so you get just the right tonal value to...
Just enough that it's different from the base, but not too much that it's too distinct.
That's right, yeah, like a textured...
Yeah.
That's better. A textured overlay over the textured overlay, really, basically. So what you're trying to do is get the texture uneven, if you know what I mean. So some parts are more textured than others, and some parts are more lighter than others as well. That's better. Because beaches are never just smooth and flat and even. They always have ridges in them, or they have lumps and bumps. And
yeah.
So again, keeping it lighter at the top, which is where it's drier, and just soften it down into this dark area.
Just breaking up that transition.
Yeah. And I don't need to recharge my brush at this point because there's just enough paint on there just to go on without overlay.
What he means by recharging is basically getting more paint on his brush.
More paint on
when you're dry brushing, as you'll know, if you want to do really fine, gentle dry brushes, you wait till the end stage of dry brushing when you've got very little paint left on the brush. You know, you don't do your delicate stuff with your first swipe of a dry brush. And are you happy, sir?
90%, yes.
90%? Right, so right now...
Never totally happy.
Yeah, he's broken it up with that sort of greeny grey and it is looking rather nice.
We've got a nice dark bit at the bottom where the water is, it's surprising how black volcanic beaches get when they're wet.
Yeah, of course.
So in the rain, it'll be that colour all over pretty much. It's just really, really dark, almost the colour of coal.
But this is like dried out, so going from the coastline, from the water's edge all the way up.
So from going up to the water's edge up to where the beach is drier, which is where it's going to be a paler and a lighter colour. It's that base brown with a sort of like a cobalt blue, white dry brush over it, kind of neutralise each other.
Right, okay.
To a certain degree, and you end up with this kind of speckly sheen. So what I'm going to do, like I did before, is just a few highlights.
So you're just going to speckle it, break it up a bit.
Yeah. Because you always get like, you know, shells and, you know, small stones and things like that around. This isn't really probably quite the right brush for this, but never mind. And again, I'm holding my right hand on my left, so it steadies it a bit. So I don't just put a little tiny little speckle.
Once again, we'd pick out individual rocks and stuff like that.
Yeah. And just sort of like a random speckle, really.
Yeah.
You can always use your fingers as well to
smudge them off.
Smudge them off, soften them up a little bit. And, you know, kind of like a dishy-dashy kind of texture, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not dots, but it's kind of speckly dashes. You know
There you go.
And just that little bit, that just livelies it up just enough. To make
and breaks up those areas of solid colour.
Yeah, stops it from looking visually so blank.
Yeah. And there we go, with a couple of speckles on to break it up. Now those really do look like the sands of Iwo Jima. They're beautiful.
They said that when they landed on the beaches, they were red hot because the heat coming up from underneath.
Oh, of course.
So when you put your foot in the sand, it baked your boot.
That's some tough ground.
Yeah.
But mainly for the Iwajima stuff, we are looking at our raw umber, and then using that blue.
Yeah, Cobalt.
Yeah, to really cool it down, to give it that volcanic sort of feel to it.
Right, the nice thing about Cobalt Blue is even though it's blue, it's kind of like a slightly reddish blue, so it's like a warmish blue. So for anything like tropical tropical waters, or a tropical light, you know, that Cobalt Blue is better than a greenish blue.
He always throws a curveball when it's like, it's blue, it's a warmish blue. Right, so we've pretty much nailed that. Well, he's pretty much nailed that one for us. Once again, I need to go through, take these details out, the colours, that sort of stuff, and then come up and create something. So that is our four colour palettes. Yeah, loads of new information for you to play around with, loads for me to play with, loads of thanks to Fred's. Now I'm going to wrap this up. So as always, yeah, if you've got any questions about any of this, get them down in the comments, and I'll make sure I get Fred sat in front of a computer if there's anything specific, so he can answer it.
Yep.
Yeah, like it, share it as always. Now, if you do want more of these sort of in-depth painting palette colour guides, there's a whole load of topics, including ocean colours, verdigris, rust, brickwork, and other things that we've talked about. But I need your support. Fred's a working artist as well, so he can't just take a day out and just, you know, give his time for free. So I'm actually splitting my Patreon money with Fred on this one. So if you'd like more of these, I could do with the support on Patreon, so I can, you know, support Fred as well. So links down below for that. Remember, it's only $1 a month. That's all I ask, but enough if you jump on. Then hopefully we can get Fred back for a regular monthly sort of colouring with Fred and get you some really interesting colours. In the meantime, also, yeah, if you're not into the monthly thing, remember there's the wish list down below, and there's also the PayPal link for one-off donations, and I'll also put Fred's PayPal link down there so you can send him a donation if you fancy it as well. Okay?
Thank you.
So that's the one-offs. This has been Beaches, and what's your favourite, Fred?
I was going to ask you the same question, actually.
Well, yeah. I love the coral, man. I love the coral.
Yeah. I like the colour of the coral, but I think we got the texture of the European beach pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm quite pleased with that.
Although I must admit, I do like the Astrian. I do like the...
These are interesting because they're so unusual.
Yeah. Right, we're going to wrap this up. Links have been on the screen, and we will see you real soon. All the best, yeah? Ta-ra.
Bye now.